Мы активно боремся с англицизмами, но думаю, что сегодня можно употребить это английское словосочетание «game is over». А почему игра окончена? Потому что спрос на сырье заменяет спрос на валютные резервы.
Auch bei mir der Eindruck, dass das, was gestern passiert ist, eine politische Entscheidung ist und keine technische.
Вот на сегодняшний день никакого пути решения той проблемы, которая возникла по компрессорной станции портовая, нету. Компания Siemens поставила двигатель, а для нас партнером является компания Siemens, а не канадский завод. Поставила двигатель на ремонт завод, а забрать его оттуда не может.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ, here to take you through some of the world's top stories today. And indeed, the world has gone crazy, or the Western world anyway. So from the first clip, I've just showed you the CEO of Gazprom, and he indeed does not look very happy. He's not very happy because he's been blamed for cutting Russian gas into Germany. And he's cut about 40% of it, or something like that. And Germans asking basically it's a political decision, and Gazprom is saying no, it's a technical decision. Because you guys have sanctioned us, the parts that we needs to come from Canada, and Canada is not sending it because of all the sanctions, so you need to sort this out. So obviously these sanctions are hitting the Western countries and companies much more than they actually intended, because they have sanctioned Germany not to take in any high technical products, for example, high-end manufacturing units, and these units can only be made in Canada at the moment. So they have pretty much sanctioned themselves, and this is going to affect Germans' gas. They can't really save up enough gas for the winter, and having this 40% cut is a huge deal for Germany. And I've seen some of the German papers as well. They're all panicking, absolutely panicking. You have Herbeck panicking, but Scholz is still being his usual dumb self, you know, hiding away from all his problems. He can't even meet Zelensky by himself. He needs a male escort, Macron, to take him. I mean, that guy must be the most useless chancellor I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, the Gazprom CEO made a very good statement. He said the commodities are more valuable than money, and he's right. He's absolutely right. I mean, dollars, EU money is absolutely worthless. Absolutely worthless, because if the EU countries and America sanction you, dollars become useless. EU euros become useless. So what are you going to do with them if you can't use these dollars and euros in your own country, and you can't even, you know, you're sanctioned? So that's what he says. The commodities are more important than money. And not only that, the dollars are not really backed by anything. You know, they used to be backed in gold back in the day, but I think President Nixon basically took the dollar off the gold standard, and now they're just worthless money, really. And imagine if there's a hyperinflation. I mean, right now there's inflation, but you know, if this inflation keeps rising and rising and rising, pretty soon this money is going to be absolutely worthless. You won't be able to buy anything. You know, you look at countries which are suffering from hyperinflation, places like Venezuela, places like Zimbabwe, where you need $1 trillion Zimbabwean dollars to buy a bottle of milk or something like that. You know, it's not going to head to that extreme lengths, but you can see the inflation shooting up in the next few months. Already inflation has gone over 10% in UK, officially that is. Unofficially I think it's more like 20%, because if you look if you look at all of the groceries, if you go out to do some shopping, you'll notice that cost of goods have gone up not just 10%, they've gone up 20%, gone up 30%, even 40%, or even 50%. Your bills have gone double. You know, gas bills, electricity bills, people are basically paying double. And in October, it's going to double even more, because what they've done, they've put one price cap in April, and there's going to be another price cap which is going to be released in October. So people will have to pay much, much more. And you realize there's going to come a time when people working full time are just not going to have enough money to pay their bills and live. You know, if you're working full time, even if you're working 2 jobs, the cost of everything's going up, the cost of bills are going up, your mortgage rates are going up, because they've also increased the interest rates, which means your mortgage rates have gone up, so you have to pay more for your mortgage rates every month. They've increased the tax as well, so obviously whenever you get paid less, because you have to give more in taxes. So you see, everyone is making less and less money in UK, and there's going to come a point when even full-time workers and middle class, even working in 1 job or even 2 jobs, it's just not enough. They can't pay for the electricity, they can't pay for food, and that's when you're going to see proper riots in the streets. So he's right, the CEO of Gazprom. The commodities are more important than money, because right now the money is just becoming more and more worthless every single day. With the rising inflation, you know, you just can't buy anything anymore. It's just not worth anything. It's not, you know, like I said before, the dollar was standardized with gold, but now it's just a piece of paper, to be honest. And I do not think this is a political decision at all. I really think that Russia needs these products. These are high-end manufacturing products that Russia can't produce themselves. It only gets produced in Canada. And what the world has done, they put a ban on high-end manufacturing items to Russia. So obviously a lot of countries are not going to send these high-end manufacturing items. So that's the problem. And guess what? Germany's going to be the one that suffers. Russia's not going to suffer, because what he says is the increase in gas prices, even a lower flow of gas to Germany, they're still going to make more money, because gas prices are increasing every single day. So they're still making money. It doesn't really matter. And they save more in their commodities. So the only person losing is Germany, because they're not going to save enough for winter. And when winter comes, they're going to realize they don't have enough gas. They're going to really, really struggle then. What they're going to do. Now comes to Lavrov. And Lavrov recently had an interview in the BBC, and I just wish we had somebody like Lavrov in British Parliament, because this guy says things as it is. You know, he doesn't hold back, and you know, whatever he says, he speaks sense. He's not bullshitting, he doesn't lie, he doesn't talk loony language like Liz Truss, and doesn't turn up drunk like Boris. You know, Boris is a loony. He's like Benny Hill, or actually I shouldn't really call him Benny Hill, because Benny Hill is a hero to a lot of people. So it's an insult to Benny Hill, to be honest. But Boris is just an idiot, sorry to say. Liz Truss is an idiot. Everybody in the British Parliament is an idiot. But you see the way Lavrov speaks, and you know, you have no choice but to sit down and listen to what he says. And then when you listen to his words, you realize he's speaking sense. And he gave some proper lashing to the West, and I just love the way he uses his words. And I love the fact that he says that Britain wants to bring Russia to its knees. If you want to bring Russia to its knees, come on then, do it, try it. And that's what he said to Liz Truss, that's what he said to Boris. And all of these idiot and British MPs, they're probably hiding behind their desk thinking, oh my God, I hope we don't have to see this guy face to face, hiding behind their computers, or Boris hiding behind his wife and his kids, or telling his wife, save me from Lavrov, save me, baby. Lavrov is a true diplomat. You know, he's a real diplomat. He knows how to be diplomatic. But you also can't cross him, because if you try and cross him, you know, good luck to you, because he will literally bite your head off. And he is one person not to mess with. Putin is the same as well. Putin has also had a recent interview, and he also said that the United States acts as if it's been sent by God to earth with their sacred interests. And again, Putin is also giving the United States a bit of action, and and he's right. United States acts like they are God of the world, and it's about their rules-based order. It's all about their rules. Forget about everyone else's rules. It's about their rules and what they want, and they get involved in every single country's politics. Why do that? Why get involved in every single country's internal politics? I just don't get it. You are the most powerful country in the world. Why don't you just leave it as it is? Why do you have to get involved with the rest of the world? It's absolutely ridiculous. And Putin is right. The United States does act like it's been sent by God. And sometimes you have to admire Putin, because what the West is doing, what Biden is doing, he's saying to the American public, oh, it's Putin's price hike. Britain is doing the same. Putin's price hike. Everyone's blaming Putin. You got the Germans blaming Putin for the gas. You got Macron blaming Putin. The whole collective West is blaming Putin. But guess what? Putin's not losing. His Russia is not losing. They said that the ruble will turn into rubble. It's not turning into rubble. It's turning into gold by the sound of it. The economy is doing better. The inflation is going down. So these guys like Biden, like the West, are saying Putin's price hike, Putin is because of Putin that they did this. What a load of tosh. The American people or the British people or the Western world, they don't want to hear these excuses. They want to hear an action plan. If you're gonna basically say in front of the world stage, it's all Putin's fault that our economy is going bad, it's all Putin's fault you have to pay more for your gas prices, this tells you two things. Number one, why is your economy dependent on Putin? Why is that? People with brains should ask that question. If I'm going to the supermarket and everything's like double the price, and Boris tells everyone, oh, it's all because of Putin, what does Putin do for everything in the supermarket to go high price? What does Putin do for all the gas prices to go up? And why do you allow Britain to be subservient to Putin? If Putin can do all of this, then he must be Superman. He must be better than God. So what plan do you have to alleviate this, to get rid of this problem? No plan at all. So Putin, and he's been made to look like Superman here by Biden, by Boris, by the West, because they're saying that it's all Putin's fault. But Putin single-handedly is destroying the West's economy, so he must be some sort of god himself. It's ridiculous blaming Putin. All they are doing is making Putin into a superhuman, And if you're going to blame others for your own problems, then you are not a good human being. Only idiots blame others. Real men sort out problems, sort out issues. They do not make excuses. If there's problems with the economy and you just blame Putin and do nothing, is that your foreign policy then? Is that your job as president? Just blame Putin, then sit in your arsehole there and do nothing? Oh, it's all Putin's fault. Let's just sit in the White House and do nothing for the rest of our term. Let's get to the midterms. Let's get to the elections in 2 years' time. Just blame Putin. Let's not do anything. Is that what you're going to do? And do nothing and just blame Putin all the time? A real president will get up, do something about it. Do something with the economy. And then a real president will look at what's causing all of these problems. And these problems are obviously caused by the sanctions on Russia, by the sanctions on China, by the tariffs on China, by the sanctions and tariffs on Russia and the rest of the world. All of this was fine a few years ago. It's not until Trump started this ridiculous trade war with China. Now, then you had all of these semiconductor shortages. and then the inflation started going up, and then now with all of this special military operation with Russia, with all of these sanctions on Russia, it's just making everything worse. You know, these policies you need to look at. You need to look at what's causing all of these issues around the world, and it's mainly these policies. You either need to reverse these policies, or you need to do something about it. And these Western leaders have no clue. They have no clue what to do. Just running around like headless chickens. So talking of idiots, I wanted to put Boris as the idiot of the day, but actually, yeah, he is my first idiot of the day. I'm going to have about 3 idiot of the days today. So our first idiot of the day is basically Boris makes a surprise trip to Kiev. And as you all know, Macron and Scholz went to Kiev yesterday, and you know, they were putting a brave face to Zelensky. They didn't promise him anything. And so Boris, with all of his problems at home, with all of his economic issues, he catches a private jet, wastes a lot of CO2, pollutes the planet even more, heads to Ukraine, goes to Kiev, meets up with him, and guess what? It's a complete failure. It's a complete useless trip. Absolutely useless trip. Because you have Biden giving away 1 billion a few days ago. And what Zelensky wanted was weapons, and what Zelensky wanted was money. And guess what? Britain has got none. So Boris went all the way there, and he couldn't even afford to give him any money, and he couldn't afford to give him any weapons. And he comes back saying that, oh, we're going to offer your troops a training program. I mean, can you believe this shit? You can see here, he offered Zelensky a major training program for Ukrainian forces. So this tells you 2 things. Number 1, there's no money to give. UK is absolutely broke. Number 2, there's no weapons to give to Ukraine. Again, UK is absolutely broke and has got no more weapons left. And Britain has basically run out of options. And Boris knows if he gives any more money, if he gives any more weapons, his head is going to be on the chopping block. Literally, everyone's going to eat his head, including me. I'll be in the front line. And, you know, it's just a waste of trip. It's just a complete waste of trip. And Zelensky must be really, really disappointed. Yesterday he met Macron. Even Macron didn't promise him anything. He said, "Oh, we'll recommend Ukraine to be a candidate for the EU." That's going to take years. You know, even Turkey is a candidate, and they've been waiting years and years and years. So nobody knows what's going to happen to Ukraine in the future. Nobody knows whether Ukraine is going to stay as a country or it's going to be split up into separate bits. Nobody knows. So all of these promises mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. And nobody even knows if Zelensky is going to survive. I don't know if anyone's seen the Daily Beast. They put a hit article on him. And it was quite shocking, to be honest, and I think that deserves a separate video, so I'm not going to mention it here. I'll probably talk about it in a separate video. But you can see how the tables are turning on him now. The West, you know, the love affair is finished. The West is basically ganging up on him. And even in Britain, I saw an article that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Ukrainian refugees without a home. This home for hosts program where Ukrainians come in and the government pays you £350 to host them in your house has completely failed. So many of them have been kicked out to the streets. You know, hundreds if not thousands are basically homeless. So this program has completely failed. A lot of people have realized, you know, this love affair suddenly is over. People stop caring about Ukrainians anymore. People stop putting their flags, Ukrainian flags, on their bios in Twitter and Instagram. And nobody cares anymore in UK. People care more about the cost of living here. People care more about whether they can pay their electricity bills or their food. Then you have these Ukrainians that you're hosting. They're leaving their lights on all night. They're charging up their phones and laptops. They're watching TV all day because they don't have a job. They're cooking meals using your gas. They're using your shower maybe twice, 3 times a day. And then not only that, they're emptying your fridge as well. They don't have any money to go out and buy food, so they're going to empty your fridge. So what is the point of hosting them? And pretty soon, and all these British people are realizing this is all BS. So they're just kicking them out for silly little reasons. And the ones they don't kick out, if they're a beautiful woman, they'll be stealing other women's husbands and running off with them, or other women's sons or fathers. Who knows? Anyone will do, really. So I'm quite sad with this article. Not so pretty Patel has signed the extradition to US for Assange, and this little cow, her parents have been bloody immigrants herself, and she's sending all of these immigrants to Rwanda, and there's human rights watches basically stamping on her. There's court cases everywhere. She doesn't care. She's like, send them to Rwanda. Who gives a crap? And then now she's sending Assange to America. He faces 175 years in prison, which I don't think he's probably not even going to last if he gets sent to US. He's probably going to get the same treatment as what's his name, Jeffrey Epstein, when he got killed in prison or something. I'm sure the CIA will basically do something to him to shut him up for good. So this is really, really bad news and sad news, to be honest, and quite ashamed of UK. And again, UK pretends that they all have human rights and all of that crap. And I want to go back to Lavrov as well. And then one piece of thing that Lavrov has said, because he was one thing that brought up in BBC. They were talking about the British soldiers that were being held in Donetsk, and Lavrov said they'll probably get the death penalty. And this guy was talking about, Russia needs to be held with an international court, and then Lavrov mentioned something back. He says, does Britain have an independent court? Because and I think what he was trying to talk about was Assange. Again, if this was a British court, if this was an independent court, Assange would be let out because he's done nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing. This is all down to US. And it shows that, UK is basically subservient to everything that the US says. An absolute poodle. They don't have a court system. It basically is all about what the US wants. And there's no rule of law in UK. It's all BS. And everyone knows it. So I spoke about how England's doing really, really badly. So we had another piece of bad news saying that the economy has contracted 0.3%. GDP has gone down. And you can see it went down in March by 0.1% and 0.3% in April, raising fears of a recession. And these articles saying how the Bank of England got it wrong again on Britain's slide towards recession. That's because you have idiots running the Bank of England. You have idiots running the government. You have idiots running the financial system all over the West, all over America, all over England. I have been warning about this for months in my videos. If you go back to my old videos a few months ago, I have been saying how badly the economy is going to be going down, the GDP is going to be going down, England's on its way down. I made a specific video about this. It's easy for anyone with the brain to look at how things are going, and especially with those sanctions that they've placed on Russia, with the Brexit issues, with all of these COVID issues. That England's going to be shooting itself in the foot, and it's going to be going down in terms of GDP. Anyone can see that. Anyone with an ounce of brain can see that. And I just don't understand how the Bank of England thought that Britain's going to do really well, and everything's fine, and the economy's doing well. No, there's no problems. Even in increasing the interest rates, all they are doing is following their masters, US. If US increases the interest rates, UK does the same. exactly the same day or the day after. You know, they're literally poodles of America. And everyone knows increasing the interest rates is not going to do anything. You know, the problems with inflation is it's not all about all of this money printing that they've done. It's all about supply chain issues. It's all about the gas prices. Because if the gas prices and petrol prices are so high, then that means the delivery to ship around goods around UK is going to increase. That means the cost of the product is going to increase. So there's issues everywhere. There's issues with supply chain, issues with, obviously they've been printing a lot of money as well. That didn't help. The cost of raw materials around the world has increased. You know, you got to look at everything. You know, just increasing the interest rates is just not going to help. But I can understand why they have to do it, because they have to do it. But it's just making things worse. It's just making the middle class into poorer people, because all you are doing is making them pay for their mortgages more. There will come a time when people just can't afford to pay their mortgages, can't afford to pay the rent, can't afford to pay the bills. And you will see a lot of people moving into poverty in England over the next few months. And I'm talking a lot. I'm talking about millions of people will go into poverty if this continues. And what's going to make it worse, Russia has announced also that they will only export agricultural products to friendly countries only, because everyone knows there's a huge wheat shortage, food shortage around the world. So Russia has got a lot of wheat. They've had a humongous wheat season this year. So they'll be selling it to China, they'll be selling it to India, they'll be selling it to the Middle East, no problem. Plus they have all of this wheat coming out from the land they've occupied in Ukraine as well, in Donbass and Luhansk. And from my previous videos, you will know that those areas are very, very fertile in terms of agricultural land. So they will be having bumper harvest themselves. So they'll be also being sent out, you know, as part of Russia. Russia controls all of the ports in the Black Sea and in the Azov Sea. And so they will be in control of what goes in, what goes out. So Russia's in control, basically. So the West is going to have real severe issues when it comes to food over the next few months. And the Western people will never ever see anything like this. Never. You know, all of these years, the West has been very, very good in terms of having everything they want. They were pretty much spoiled. You know, they've been pretty much spoiled. They've always had more food than what's required, and the only countries that were suffering was the poor countries in Africa, Middle East, in Asia. And for a big change, you will see a major shift where European countries and the West, talking about America as well, Canada, they will really, really suffer when it comes to food and agriculture. You will see the food prices just shoot through the roof, and the Western people are not used to it. You know, people in Asian countries, people like in Iran, where they've had sanctions all of these years and the food prices just shot through the roof. They have been suffering for years, and it's a different change when, you know, the Western countries suddenly start suffering this as well. And it will happen, guys. It will definitely happen. If you live in the West and you haven't saved up on food and stockpile yourself on food, I would do so right now. You will see over the next few months the shop, you know, they're going to get emptier and emptier and emptier, and it's going to be a huge issue. You know, if I was you, I would stock up on things like rice and pasta, things that won't run out of date quite easily, things that, you know, take a long time for it to go out of date. We're talking about like a year or two. You need to really, really stock up, because there's going to come a point when people are going to be fighting over food in supermarkets in the next few months. And I just think it's going to happen. People underestimate it because people are spoiled in the West. They've never seen or experienced anything like this. And a lot of people are in denial. They'll probably think, it's not going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to us. But I'm telling you now, food shortage is real. And even America, they're having a lot of issues. They've had baby formula issues. And now they're having tampon issues. You know, things are going to get much, much worse. So the two American fighters who have surrendered in Donbass, they have been speaking, and, you know, I'm not going to show the video because, you know, it's pretty much all the same thing, and sometimes it does come across as propaganda. I hope this guy basically realizes one day that what his actions are actually doing. You know, unless he's completely brainwashed, I just don't understand it really. Anyway guys, I'm gonna come to the China section. So the Chinese have got great thing to celebrate today. They've relaunched. I mean, sorry, not relaunched. They've launched a third aircraft carrier, and this is a huge celebration for the Chinese people, because this aircraft carrier is their first aircraft carrier which is homegrown. The other aircraft carriers, one they bought from Ukraine, and the other one is basically one, I believe it was from Russia, where they had to rebuild a lot of it. But this was the first ever homegrown one. So all of the technology, all of the parts, everything in there is 100% Chinese. So the Chinese are very proud of this aircraft carrier. It has a lot of the new technologies on board as well. Technologies such as electromagnetic catapults and blocking devices like the ones used in the US carriers. So very much, you know, all the technologies used in this aircraft is very similar to what the US has in its aircraft carriers. Obviously, the US aircraft carriers have been around for years, and probably they are much more powerful in terms of tonnage and probably have got more technology in them. But you got to understand, this is China's first attempt, and once you do it once, your next version is going to be even better. So they have the understanding and know-how to do it themselves now. So you'll see China's churning out a lot more aircraft carriers. I believe they have plans to have 6 altogether. So there's others coming out which are going to be nuclear powered, and each generation of aircraft carrier is going to be better. It's going to have better technology. It's going to be much better in terms of tonnage and weapons. And you know, this is China's very good achievement. How many other countries can create aircraft carriers? I mean, there's not many countries out there. There's America, there's obviously UK. UK's got 2 aircraft carriers. There's France, obviously. There's Russia, and I just can't think of any other countries that have major aircraft carriers like the ones in US. And this is a really big step for China. It's going to make any war in the Taiwanese Strait much easier, because what this means, with this aircraft carrier, they can launch airplanes from the sea, so they don't have to fly across from China into Taiwan. They can fly across from the sea into Taiwan and make bombing runs or fighting runs, fighting other jets. And this aircraft carrier will be protected by hundreds of other ships that China has got. China's got very sophisticated frigates and other ships as well, which will be surrounding this aircraft carrier, protecting it from missiles and submarines and other things. So this is another really good step for China. If there is a war in the Taiwanese Strait, it will basically make America think twice before joining the war. It just gives China extra ammunition to win any war over the Taiwanese Strait. And also the other fact is, it also gives China great power for power projection. So, you know, one of the greatest things that America has got, you know, with its aircraft carriers, it can project power way outside its borders. So this is why America has over 800 bases around the world. It can send out these aircraft carriers all over the world and, you know, basically project its power to other continents and stuff. China has got no plans to do that. All they want to do is protect their own borders, and they also want to protect their sea lanes as well. So the sea lanes coming from the Middle East, going through the Malacca Strait and into China, they want to protect those sea lanes, the sea lanes around the South China Sea and also around the Indian Ocean as well. So, you know, China hasn't got really much aspirations to take over the world. All they want to do is protect their own interests. They have their BRI, They have their trade routes as well. They also want to protect their northern route, the Arctic route as well. So that's all of China. That's all of China's wants to do. China doesn't want to take over the world. It doesn't want to have 800 bases like America has. It doesn't want to project its power every single country. China knows that it's got American bases surrounding China at the moment. So all of China's focus now is basically to reunify Taiwan. If it comes to it, if they can do it peacefully, they will do it peacefully. If they can't do it peacefully and Taiwan does something stupid like declares independence, or America pushes them towards independence, or America does something stupid and pushes China into a war with Taiwan like they've done with Russia and Ukraine, I wouldn't put it past them. There was also a white paper saying that if there is a war with China, the time to have a war with China is before 2025, because by 2025 China would become too powerful, and it'll be almost impossible to stop China by 2025. So if there is any war with China, America is better off fighting it sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, I just think it's too late already, because a lot of people underestimate China. A lot of people think that China is a paper tiger. Its military is not very good. They're not tested. They haven't fought a war in so many years, so they're not very tested. But I guarantee you, China is not a country to be messing around with. I mean, I've been to China. I follow a lot of China and what it's done with the military. China is a dragon you do not want to mess around with. And somebody said once that China is a sleeping dragon, and you should just let the dragon sleep, because once it becomes awake, the world will change after that. And they're right. China has been very much a sleeping dragon over the years, and I think this century is going to be the time of China's rise. So watch this space. This is another big achievement for China. As you know, China has been building its own 5th generation aircraft like the J-20s. They have another 5th generation aircraft coming out called the J-31, which is going to be on the aircraft carrier itself. So they're making specific aircrafts for this carrier. And also they're building their own stealth bombers. It's going to be called the H-20. They already have their hypersonic missiles. So these ships, they're going to be protected with a lot of weapons, a lot of hypersonic missiles, a lot of drones, a lot of AI. You don't want to mess around with China at this stage. And if America thinks that China is going to be an easy fish to fry, it's going to be an easy war, they really are underestimating China. This is the same way they're underestimating Russia. This is the same people who are saying Ukraine's going to win, Russia's going to lose. This is the same people who are going to be singing these hymns. They're going to be saying America's going to win, Taiwan's going to win, China's going to lose. And before they know it, China's already been taken over by China, and Chinese people have already reunified China before Americans can even blink. And if American carriers come anywhere near Taiwan, trust me, China will probably throw a couple of hundred hypersonic missiles at those aircraft carriers to make sure they get sunk. And if countries like Japan get involved, Japan will be completely destroyed off the sea. Chinese people haven't forgotten the times when Japanese people had occupied most of China. They also did a lot of genocide against Chinese people. One genocide is called the Nanjing Massacre, comes to mind. So Chinese people haven't forgotten the crimes that the Japanese did. They still haven't apologized for those crimes. And if Japan gets involved with any war in the Taiwanese Strait, whether directly or indirectly, when I said indirectly, I mean, if America flies aircraft from Japanese bases, then that means, Japan is involved indirectly, and Japan will be a target. And like I said in my previous videos, China does not want to attack Taiwan. There's a lot of people in Taiwan who are Chinese. They have Chinese blood. They don't want to kill their own people. and they don't want to destroy the infrastructure. You know, Taiwan is part of China. It's one China policy, so they're not going to destroy their own country. They're not going to destroy their own people. They're going to want to do this with the least possible damage as possible. They want to do it peacefully first, and if they cannot do it peacefully, they will find a way to get into Taiwan and get rid of the current DPP party, which are complete puppets of America. If they can get rid of the DPP party, that's it. Taiwan is theirs. They can reunify it. They'll put some proper people in charge, and they will reunify it peacefully. That's how China will do it. You know, they will avoid a full-scale military war. The only way there will be a full-scale military war is if the West and America get involved. If that happens, then yeah, there will be a full-scale war between America and its allies. And America's not going to have many allies fighting against China, trust me. You know, they might have Japan, yeah, that's one of them. They might have Australia. And even Australia right now is having second thoughts. Australia has got a different leader now. And this leader is trying very, very hard to make amends with China. And they are under talks, having peace talks with each other. And depends how that goes. You know, you will see whether Australian people really, really want to go to war against China. And I guarantee you, when the time comes, most Australians will say no, we don't want to get involved. And Britain might get involved as well with America. And I just can't see many other countries joining, to be honest. There's Britain, there's Japan, there's Australia. And I just don't think any other country will join. I think Philippines will say no. I think South Korea will say no, because if South Korea gets involved, North Korea will get involved and help the Chinese side, and North Korea will destroy South Korea. You know, you can imagine how many bombs North Korea has facing South Korea at the moment, and if there is a war in the Korean peninsula, you can imagine how both countries, North and South, would get destroyed, because South Korea's got pretty good arsenal, but do not discount North Korea. They have nuclear missiles, they have really, really powerful missiles, and they have hundreds and thousands of them pointing at South Korea and all the major cities in South Korea. So South Korea is, within their interest, they're going to say no, we don't want to get involved. They're also going to say no to America about launching aircraft from South Korean bases. They're probably going to say no to that as well. So only country that will probably say yes is Japan. Australia will probably say it, and that's it. I don't see many other countries joining. And if any ships or aircraft carriers come near Taiwan, they'll be blown out of the water with hypersonic missiles. And you know, there's a lot of American generals who have done a lot of war games along the Taiwanese Strait. They've done war games about wars with China and over Taiwan, and every single scenario they have lost, and each year they play these games, they lose. And don't forget, China is becoming powerful every year as well, more and more powerful. They're building new aircraft carriers like this. They have a bigger arsenal of weapons. Their weapons are getting more technologically advanced. They have more airplanes. So each year China is getting more powerful. So a chance for USA and its allies to win this war over Taiwan is becoming less and less and less. So the person who wrote the article about the date to fight China is before 2025. I just don't think that's realistic anymore. I think the date has gone, long gone, probably last few years, to be honest. And I think America would make a major mistake if they get involved with these internal issues between China and Taiwan. So I want to go to the next article. So this article is basically, the British are complaining that China is basically changing a lot of the Hong Kong textbooks, and they're getting rid of a lot of stuff where they were talking about the British colony. So I want to give you my opinions on this, and this is basically coming straight out the mouth from a Hong Kong person in England. I have met a few Hong Kong people, and I'm going to try and bring them on for an interview for this channel, but they have seen my channel and they're quite scared to come on because it's because, you know, they're quite shy and they don't really want to talk about it online. I'm trying to get them on board, so I'll see. But what they have told me, this is straight out of the horse's mouth, is when they were kids growing up in school, you know, and college, the kids are not educated about Chinese history. They, you know, Hong Kong history, it doesn't mention anything about the fact that Hong Kong was seized from China as part of the Opium Wars. It doesn't mention anything about the Opium Wars. It doesn't mention anything about the fact that Hong Kong was seized from the Chinese. It doesn't mention about anything about all of the crimes that the British did against the Chinese people, how they marched to China and burnt down the Summer Palace, you know, things like that. It doesn't mention anything about that. So, you know, the Hong Kong guy I was talking about, he was shocked about, you know, the true Chinese history, and he was quite shocked that I knew a lot as well about Chinese history. And a lot of kids are brainwashed in Hong Kong, and this is why a lot of them actually was part of the protest in Hong Kong, and a lot of them are brainwashed because the schools and the texts they were basically studying, they all were omitted real Chinese history, and the British were made to look like good guys. Hong Kong never even had a democracy. You know, it was all ruled by the British. You know, Hong Kong never had a true democracy. It was all about British rules. It was all about British interests. They basically used Hong Kong as part of the Opium War and made a lot of money from China and Asia by seizing Hong Kong. And they don't mention any of that in the history books at all. So the fact that Hong Kong never had a democracy, and all of these Hong Kongers think that they actually got democracy, it's all lies. It's all fake. You know, it's all ruled by the British. Hong Kong never even had a voice. The British have been changing a lot of the textbooks in schools and how the kids get taught. And the same thing is happening in Taiwan as well. A lot of kids in Taiwan are being brainwashed. They are not being taught Chinese history. This is why a lot of young people in Taiwan, they vote for the DPP party, because a lot of these youngsters are brainwashed, and basically they're being taught that they don't have any Chinese roots. They are pure Taiwanese, and you know, they're basically pushed to be independent and stuff like that. So this is what happens, and this is why China wants Taiwan to be reunified, because they feel that, you know, whichever year passes, more of these young generations are growing further and further away from China, and they, you know, a lot of the youngsters nowadays don't feel like they're Chinese. They feel like more Taiwanese and independent. So China doesn't want that. They want, you know, obviously Taiwan and China to be reunified. They want people to identify themselves as Chinese. So that's one of the reasons, really. So the final story about China, I want to talk about this giant telescope. So China has basically built this giant telescope. It's called FAST, and this is basically a replacement for a telescope that in the West called Arecibo. And Arecibo was one of the first telescopes looking for intelligent life in the universe, and that telescope has now been discontinued. And a couple of years ago, the other telescope found some signals, and it's called the WOW signal, and it came from a distant galaxy. And basically all of the scientists were getting really excited, and one of the scientists wrote WOW on the piece of paper where the signal came, and this is where the WOW signal name comes out from. So ever since then, they never had a repeat signal, basically. So, you know, for a signal to be true, it needs to be able to be repeatable. So if a signal, it's like an SOS. If you keep sending someone an SOS, eventually someone will know that you're sending them a message. If you send someone one SOS, then people will ignore it. You know, they're not gonna. They'll probably think it's just a one-off. So these signals need to come repeatedly. So that's the issue. And one of the issues that SETI had, that was the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. One of the issues that SETI had was, at the time, the computers were very slow. But nowadays, China is one of the leaders of big data, and the supercomputers that China uses for these fast telescopes, and plus it uses big data as well, this means they can go through billions times more data than SETI. And I remember the times when SETI was basically sending out messages and screensavers for people to have on their laptops. So basically, if you have a laptop, you can have a screensaver which basically analyzes SETI data. So they were asking people for help because their computers was just not powerful enough to analyze all of the data that was coming through. So China doesn't have that problem. They can sort through billion times more data than compared to SETI, and these supercomputers are also billion times faster as well. So things are much more improved. So this is why one of the reasons why China said they have found some intelligent messages from outer space. So obviously I will hear more from over the next probably few weeks. They're probably analyzing this data as we speak. So it's quite exciting news. So let's wait and see what news comes out of it. Anyway, let's move on, guys. I want to talk about a few things about video games. I don't know if many of you play video games, and I gotta say, you know, these games are getting so expensive. I mean, the latest game that's out is called Diablo Immortal, and all of these kids that are playing these video games, you have to, you know, pay for skins. You got to pay for power-ups. Most of these games are all about play for, you know, you play to win. Basically, you have to pay a lot of money to win prizes, and these prizes makes you win. You know, this is not real gaming. You know, this is basically gaming companies rinsing money out of ordinary people, rinsing money out of kids. And I just don't like the way the gaming industry is moving in this world. I remember when I was growing up, and then, you know, I grew up at the time when people were playing Street Fighter 2 and all of these other great games over the years, where it was all about skill. You know, you needed skill, you needed to think fast on your feet, and that's what gaming was all about. Back then it was about Tekken. I don't know if any of you remember Tekken, and there was also a lot of shoot 'em ups, spaceship shoot 'em ups, R-types, and it's all about fast reactions, how fast you think on your feet, and that was real gaming to me. Nowadays, you got to pay to get power up, you got to pay for skin, you got to pay for to get a medal. And it's not a real skill, to be honest. I mean, nowadays I look at gaming, it's not real skill. There's COD games as well, where you go around shooting people and stuff. I'm just not into that. I'm just not into the current gaming trends at the moment. I just find it really boring. I just find it, you know, it's just a way of gaming companies just trying to leech money out of people. And the way these gaming companies are so greedy now, they're just leeching people for money. And especially the Diablo Immortal game, which is the latest game they released, and they're saying that it will cost you £110,000 to fully power up your character. £110,000 to fully power up your character, and it's only a game. It's only a game. It's not gonna you know, it's not gonna help you in real life, is it? And that's the problem with gaming. And you know, it's destroying, you know, human society. And I think one of the good things that China has done, they are limiting kids to playing online games to 3 hours a week or something like that. And I think the Western countries should do the same, because the gaming industry definitely has too much power and is exploiting a lot of kids. And these kids don't have money. So what these kids do is get their dad's credit cards or their mum's credit cards and pay for these medals or skins to get more powerful. And then suddenly these parents suddenly get these big credit card bills under their name for costing them hundreds and thousands of pounds. And it's happening more and more these days. You know, nowadays it's just these gaming companies are targeting kids, and they just exploiting them and making their parents poor. And it's absolutely ridiculous the way things are going. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. So I want to talk about the second idiot of the day. Kiev is saying that they're going to take Crimea using the military means. I mean, have you even looked at the map? You know, every single day Russia is taking more and more pieces of Ukraine. More pieces of Ukraine is disappearing. And how do they expect to take Crimea when they couldn't take Crimea all those years? Now suddenly Ukraine's going to be a superpower with all of these super weapons and take over Crimea. I mean, only an idiot and only a fool would believe anything like this. And this is coming from the same idiots in Ukraine talking about the ghost of war, ghost of Kiev, and how that Ukraine is winning, Russia's losing. And pretty soon you'll realize, hang on, where's all the troops for Ukraine gone? They're either dead or they've all been captured. There's nobody left. There's no weapons left. There's no infrastructure left. Nothing's left. And there will come a time when people realize Ukraine is completely gone. There's nothing left, and the poor country will have to be split. And I just can't believe people are stupid enough to still come up with ridiculous claims like this. The fact that they will take over Crimea using military means. Well, like Lavrov had said, go ahead and do it. Go on then, do it. Let's see if you can dare. So finally, I just want to say this as well. This is the final idiot of the day. Russia is failing in Ukraine and has already strategically lost the war, says the head of Britain's armed forces. So the head of Britain's armed forces still thinks that Russia's losing, or it has lost, and it thinks that Ukraine is winning. And here look what he says. Russian president has used 25% of the country's army, but has only achieved tiny gains. Have you even looked at the map, you idiot? You know, the size of the land that Russia has taken from Ukraine is about 1/3. It's twice the size of Great Britain, the whole of Great Britain. Twice the size. So how is that tiny gains? This guy is an idiot. I don't know what planet he's on. Seriously, how is it tiny gains when twice the size of Britain has been taken by Russia? And this war is not even over. Every single day they're taking more and more land. And you'll realize over the next few months when Russia goes into Odessa and takes more land, you know, what's he going to say? Oh, it's alright, it's only tiny little gains, it doesn't matter. This guy, seriously, this is why this guy has to win the Idiot of the Day award. You know, biggest idiot of the day. And he says here, this is a dreadful mistake by Russia. He said, Russia will never take control of Ukraine. Russia has strategically lost already. Oh my God. And this is the leader of the British Armed Forces. And this is why I have no hope for the British Armed Forces at all. They're all a bunch of clowns, all of them. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and look forward to reading your comments. Don't forget you can buy me a coffee as well, or if you really want to support me, you can join my Patreon. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks for everything, guys, and I'll